Oklahoma City and Minnesota. Game 1 of the finals is Thursday night in Boston. ESPNU has agreed to televise the Red Tails Classic college football game between Tuskegee University and Johnson C. Smith. The HBCU matchup is Sunday, September 1st in Montgomery, Alabama. The game is a tribute to the legendary Tuskegee Airmen, the first all-black fighter pilots unit that trained at Tuskegee. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
When I move my body, I feel like freedom.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
And they wondered if a black talk radio station would work in Southern California.
Y'all did it!
Well, KBLA Talk 1580 toasts its 3rd anniversary on Juneteenth, and you're invited to celebrate with us.
Hey, damn it, Smiley, y'all the bomb.
All you have to do is go to KBLA1580.com right now and sign up. Admission is free, but mandatory, and space is limited. Once we reach capacity, we'll have to cut off the online registration, but it's open right now.
Oh my God!
So don't delay.
Thank you guys for being the best at what you do.
Log on to KBLATalk1580.com right now and register to join us for an afternoon of good music, good people, and good vibes.
Happy anniversary.
Wednesday, June 19th, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. We will provide the food and drink, but be sure to bring your low-back chairs, blankets, and your personal picnic baskets.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Let's celebrate 3 years of being the most trusted, credible, and reliable source of news and information.
We love you, KBLA.
We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're black and stride again.
Black and stride again.
Happy anniversary.
Yo, what's up, son? What's up, kid? What's going on, kid? Yo, man, I'm just doing my thing, man. What up, man? I'm trying to knock this shit. Yo, 245 over here, bro. 2 up, you know how we be working, man.
Cash moves everything around me. Cream get the money. Dollar bill, yo.
I grew up on the crime side, the New York Times side. Staying alive was no job, had second hands. Moms bounced on old men. So then we moved to Shaolin Land, a young youth. You're rocking the go-to, low goose. Only way I begin to G-York was drug loot. And let's start it like this, son. Rolling with this one and that one, pulling out gats for fun. But it was just a dream for the teen who was a fiend. Started smoking wools at 16 and running up in gates and doing hits for high stakes. Making my way off fire escapes. No question I was speed for cracks and weed. The combination made my eyes bleed. No question I would flow off and try to get the dough off. Sticking up right boys on board. My life got no better. Same damn low sweater. Times is rough and tough like leather. Figured out I went the wrong route. So I got with a sick tight click and went all out. Catching keys from cross seas. Rolling in MPVs. Every week we made 40 G. Yo, brothers respect mine. I ain't gonna tech now. Bow. Move from the gate now.
Cash moves everything around me. Cream get the money. Dollar bill, yo.
KBLA.
Moves everything around me.
Talk 1580, it's time for Freedman Fridays, a comprehensive reparations conversation. We do this every Friday, hour 2. And all comers welcome, all philosophies, viewpoints, especially those doing the work and making things happen. We welcome you into the space. If you want to hear past Freedman Friday episodes, I urge you to find them for free wherever you get your podcasts. I want to also remind you, we'll continue our conversation about what the 34 felony convictions of the 45th president, who I now think should be nicknamed 34, what that means. We'll be talking with attorney Carrie Harper next hour. Right now, though, welcoming in a reparationist. He's a Chicago real estate investor and a 15-year member of INCOBRA, serving in his second term as national co-chair, seated as a NARC commissioner for INCOBRA since its formation back in 2015, and serves as the reparations working group chair of the Black is Back Coalition for Peace, Social Justice, and Reparations. Kamm Howard, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, my sister Dominique. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We obviously we want to focus on reparations, but I cannot. And I know that one of one of your big initiatives right now is Earn the Vote, connecting our electoral politics to reparations. So I have to ask you about your reaction to the 34 felony convictions of our our most recent past president.
Well, some people really expected that. So we'll see. It may, more as he's trying to galvanize his base even more. I think that the conviction may do that. This country is very polarized right now. It should position and direct Black people to be more demanding from the Democratic Party at this time, since that they may not have a true leader at the Republican Party.
Yeah, but although it doesn't seem like it's really hurting him. So far, he's raising tons of money.
No.
I think it will erode his support around the edges. But looking at that through the lens of Earn the Vote, your push to get a pre-commitment, I guess I'll call it, to reparations from Joe Biden prior to Black folks voting for him, it seems even more relevant at this moment we're in right now.
I agree. That we can utilize this to actually empower ourselves. The under-Black vote, our primary mission is to get a reparations commission before the election by the Democratic Party, and we've demonstrated over the last years that there's political will within the Democratic Party from every level of government, from the federal government. 88% of Democrats in Congress in the last Congress supported the House and Senate bill, 88%. And that's across races. The three largest cities in America, the governors of those states have passed reparations bills: California, New York, and Illinois. Hundreds of Democratic elected officials, actually thousands if you look at state elected officials and city elected officials around the country, are pursuing local and state reparations. And we have a 2019 Huffington Post poll results that said that 80% of all Democrats that were polled at the time either supported, were in favor, or did not oppose to a reparations commission. So throughout the Democratic Party, there's political will for reparations. We've done that over the years. We've shown the president that, and he's the only one that's not in alignment with his party. And so the Black electorate has to push that message forward, and we can do so now.
I know that just from the California polling, which was widely reported to show that there was no support for reparations. Actually, when people wavered was when it came to cash reparations, but especially when you break it out along party lines, the support among Democrats was pretty strong for reparations. That said, I still feel like the lawmakers flee from it in the context of elections, not because of what Black voters would think, but because of how they always, seems to me they always put this hyper focus on the mythical unicorn independent voter / soccer mom who's really actually a Republican calling themselves an independent, or the blue collar union guy that's leaning Trump, but they think they can get him back. They seem to be more concerned about that than about Black voters, and I think that keeps politicians away from supporting this issue anytime they're either in election season or they're planning a big campaign, as we see with our governor here in California, who clearly wants to be president.
I agree with that 100%, and that's why we're messaging to the president. We have poll results that identify about 2.9 million Black voters who voted for him in 2020 actually disapprove of him now. That number may be more, it may be less, dealing with the Israeli situation. We don't know. But we know a sizable number. That's about 20% of Black voters. He cannot win with that sizable number of defective Black voters from the Democratic Party. He loses today. And it shows in every poll around the country that he's losing in these swing states. We've done a poll that shows that he can reverse that defection if he was to establish a reparations commission before the election. So it's a point now where he loses without the black vote, or he has to do something dramatic, radical, really cementing toward the eradication of discriminatory disparities in this country for black people, or he loses. And we're saying that the only thing he can do to reverse that defection is the Reparations Commission. So it's a messaging campaign. We have to message that. We have to get political leaders and voices who are in front of the president and in front of media to be making these same statements and declaration to the president. He loses without the black vote in sizable numbers, and he doesn't have those numbers now.
What a great thing to do for Juneteenth, right?
Exactly.
Sign a reparation by executive order. Yeah, that's what you're pushing for.
That's what we're pushing for. We were talking to someone yesterday in the Judicial Committee's office, and they don't believe that it'll happen by Juneteenth, but we're still pushing. We're going to be meeting tomorrow. But we have been, that's been our push for him. He needs to do it earlier than later, because then we have to get out and inform black voters on what a reparations commission could mean. It could actually mean redress within the next administration. And so if he waits too late, it's not going to be as beneficial it could be as if he does it sooner.
Well, last time you were on, hey, he could do it Black August. He could do it for Marcus Garvey's birthday, August 17th. We got dates, okay? Pick a date. We got an occasion for you. Do it on July 4th. How about that? But last time we were on, we talked about this. That you wouldn't feel confident signing a deal like that, or you wouldn't sign a deal like that with Trump, for a number of reasons. But given that he's now a convicted felon, let's say he felt, in his mind that means black voters like him more, right? Remember, he already said we like him because he's got legal troubles. I'm sure he thinks we love him now that he's a convicted felon. He may be feeling like more open to something like that. Still a no for you?
So our Earn the Black Vote campaign is about who has the power to act now before the election. Trump doesn't have the power to act before November election, but Mike Johnson does in the House. He can direct Mike Johnson to bring H.R. 40 to the floor. Right now, Mike Johnson can call the bill to the floor. He can direct the Senate not to filibuster it, and we can pass it. Democrats are not going to not vote for it if the Republicans bring it to the floor. So, Trump does not have the power. He can't influence Mike. Mike Johnson has the power in the Republican Party. What we're focused on is what can happen before the election and who can do it before the election. Because there's very little political will in the Republican Party, we haven't pushed that. We know we're 20% of the Democratic Party's base because we voted Democrat over and over and over and again for the last 70 years. We're sizable. We're a dependent portion of the Democratic Party's base, and we want to utilize that dependency for this particular mission of an executive order. But certainly if Trump wants to give Mike Johnson a call, we welcome that.
Yeah, I mean, certainly he was out there showing his fealty during the trial, making courthouse speeches and such. So you're right. If Emperor Trump said, okay, we're going with reparations, let's pass a version of H.R. 40. But we've had these conversations on the show, and the reason I have that attitude is because, in my opinion, I have not seen any evidence that the Republican Party has a tendency, an inkling, a desire on any level to do anything to help with reparations. And yet there's a large number of black people who are committed reparationists that support the America First MAGA New Confederate agenda.
Yeah, that's an oxymoron. You really cannot be a reparationist and a Republican at the same time.
But a lot of people are. I mean, a lot of black people are.
Because the Republican Party, I've been in this movement a long time. I was not around when Congressman Conyers initially wrote the bill, but the bill was in Congress for 34 years, and you haven't had a single Republican sign on as a co-sponsor to the legislation. In fact, the Republican Party has a hard line against reparations, and they're starting to craft anti-reparations legislation around the country that we're fighting against. And you may be aware that there's a conservative lawsuit filed against Evanston's reparations. So the Republican Party is anti-reparations, so you cannot be black. You can be black and a Republican, but you cannot be a black Republican and a reparationist.
Well, I know some folks who've been on this show who would disagree with that, but then again, we've argued with a couple of them that Project 21 Republicans who said they wanted to come on and talk about reparations and then spent the hour explaining why it's a bad idea. We're talking with Kamm Howard right now, though. It is a Freedman Friday, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Hi, Tavis Smiley here. We're getting closer to June 18th, and time is running out for you to register to join us for our historic symposium live on C-SPAN, Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com right now if you want to be in the audience when the nation will see for the first time ever a stage full of brilliant black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's all going down. Well, it's actually all going up. Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. live from the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Again, admission is free, but we're filling up fast. So if I were you, I would log on right now to KBLA1580.com to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Salutations, kinfolk and family. It's Clink Johnson. Los Angeles is known for some of the greatest tacos in the world, but none better than the Original Taco Pete. Visit them online at originaltacopete.com or check them out at 3272 Slauson Avenue near the corner of Slauson and Crenshaw, or 2251 Rosecrans Avenue, or you can always have Grubhub, DoorDash, or Uber Eats delivered. Original Taco Pete, home of the Black Taco. Black owned for over 35 years and 4 generations.
I'm going out with the girls this weekend. Nails done, outfit stunner, and my skin, I know it's going to be glowing because I glammed up my shower routine with new Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. It smells so luxurious and moisturizes deep into my skin with its super rich, creamy lather that's bursting with vitamin B3. So my skin glows and my confidence grows. Try new Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash for glowing skin in just 14 days.
At Lowe's, save big every day when you buy in bulk. Save 10% when you buy 68 or more OSB sheathing. Plus, get an extra 5% off every day on eligible purchases when you use your Lowe's business credit card. Visit us in-store or online for low prices on the materials you need. Lowe's knows pros. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Discount taken at time of purchase. See sales associate for details. 5% offer subject to credit approval. Exclusions and terms apply. See store at lowes.com/credit for details.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality. And our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more. All designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada. Member FDIC.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
It does, and you're welcome in. We're talking with author and COBRA leader and reparations activist Kamm Howard. A lot to talk about, a lot to unpack, and you're welcome in. 800-920-1580. Of course, one of the big constant conversations in the reparations space is about Pan-Africanism versus a lineage-based approach. And Kamm, I know that you consider yourself a Pan-Africanist. How do you define that?
So thank you for that question. But before, let me just correct something. I am no longer within COBRA. I was a 3-time elected chair. I'm now with the executive director of Reparations United. So to the question, Pan-Africanism, has various definitions, but One is that, we have a shared destiny as African people based on, a shared victimization by white supremacy. And so therefore, there's a lot of things in common that we should be pushing. Initially, it grew up out of the anti-colonial movement to join forces globally to eradicate colonialism of the African continent, and then develop into a more develop into a larger ideology that we have shared, we still have shared conditions that we face that we have to collectively come together to solve. And most of it is around global domination by white supremacy and institutions that support it and uphold it.
Right. So, to me, I don't see the conflict. I see the conflict on Twitter, but for me personally,
Right.
philosophically, I consider myself a Pan-Africanist in the sense that I think Africa's children throughout the diaspora do have some common issues and some common fights, and wherever possible, we should be in solidarity, unite, and be in communication to maximize our chances of success. At the same time, I do feel like the Lineage folks are really onto something when it comes to specificity of our ancestry and our experience as Africans in America, or African Americans, or ADOS, or FBA, or whatever you want to call us. That's why I picked Freedman Friday, because that was the designation when we were actually, in the Reconstruction period. But it's really not meant to exclude or include anyone specifically in the dialogue. I don't understand why some folks in the Pan-African space balk at this idea of specificity, that Black Americans are a particular group, that we have specific ancestors that deserve light and glory.
So I think that's a misconception of what those of us who are Pan-Africanists actually feel about the reparations movement in America. I came up through in COBRA, and COBRA was, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. At that time, Blacks were, as you would say, freedmen, or who we represented were freedmen, were ADOS, if people want to utilize that term. But we also know that brothers and sisters came from the Caribbean who assimilated into Black culture and helped define what Black culture was and is in this country. And you can talk, there's many of them, male and female, over the years. And they also experienced the same apartheid-era crimes that we experienced. And so when we look at who's eligible for redress in this country, we use a human rights approach, which is, that crimes were committed, atrocious crimes that were are at the level of what the United Nations call crimes against humanity. Didn't this just happen during enslavement? It happened during the period of apartheid, which was called Jim Crow in this country. And that people who were here during that period also are eligible for redress for the crimes that they experienced. If they didn't experience a crime, then they have no eligibility. There's a segment of Black people, if you will, in this country whose ancestors experienced enslavement, and there's a segment of Black people in this country whose ancestors did not experience enslavement in the United States, but they experienced apartheid, and they're experiencing post-apartheid, what I call neo-apartheid era crimes like police terror, predatory lending, and mass incarceration. And they would only be eligible for those particular crimes that they were victimized by. So the majority of the redress in this country that we're fighting for is redress from the periods of enslavement, periods of apartheid, but we also fight for mass incarceration era crimes or the post-apartheid era crimes as well. And it is the crime that determines eligibility. And so we said we're not going to exclude people who came and were victimized by America's anti-Black crimes or crimes against humanity because they came in 2000 or 2020 or 2024. If they were victimized by the crime, they should be included in the redress.
Wow, as recently as 2020 and 2024. So what you're describing, except for the 2020 part, sounds similar to what California settled on coming out of their task force, although I think they do the cutoff in the 1800s, not 2020. But other than that, it sounds similar.
Yeah, it's based on, again, victimization by America's criminal, the orders, the criminal order of this country. We're fighting a human rights struggle, and the human rights struggle is a little different than a civil rights struggle. It's a lot different, I should say. We use different language, we use different terminology. Again, we use crimes and let me say, all reparations is crime-based, lineage-based, and race has an element. All of reparations, especially if you look at crimes that happened prior to 1969, there's a lineage component to all of that. But the key issue that we're redressing is that actual crimes that were committed, and there's continued impact on current living Black people as a result of those crimes. And so crime is first, lineage is second, race is last in our claim for redress.
I guess to be specific, what I meant when I was talking about California is that our model embraces cash reparations for the descendants of enslaved persons and other benefits for those impacted by Jim Crow and subsequent harms. And I think, that the argument I most often hear is, well, then why couldn't, someone in the chat right now, I think it was the forensic accountant, said those folks came voluntarily. But the other piece that I hear a lot is that then anyone can just show up, and say, hey, I got here in 2024, but I've experienced harm, so I should also receive reparations.
Well, that's a difficult. That's difficult. I was just being theoretical when I said 2024, but certainly if someone came here yesterday and were gunned down by the police, and there was a redress component to our efforts around police terror, then they would be eligible, regardless of how long they've been here. They were victimized by the crime, and they would only be eligible if they can demonstrate victimization by crimes that were targeted at our humanity as African people, as people of African descent, as Black Americans, as freedmen, as even though they may not be a freedman or someone descended from enslavement, they were targeted by this country because they resembled someone who looked like a freedman or a American descendant of slavery. So it is the victimization that determines any redress, any justice from a crime committed. And reparations is about justice. And you cannot leave people out because they came here at a certain time. If they were victimized by this government, they should be eligible to be redressed. It's only for the crime that they were victimized by. And that's something that a lot of lineage proponents seem to miss.
Okay, well, we'll get a little deeper into that. I also want to talk about the role of the UN after news, traffic, and sports. We're talking with Kamm Howard on a Freedman Friday, KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden says Donald Trump can only be defeated at the ballot box. In a statement shortly after the verdict was handed down, the White House added Trump's guilty verdict in his hush money case shows no one is above the law. The statement adds Trump has always mistakenly believed that he would never face consequences for breaking the law for his own personal gain. In Illinois, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is reacting after former President Donald Trump was found guilty in his New York criminal hush money case. The African-American mayor said justice spoke loudly. He added that this is how the process works. Justice being served at this moment is critical for our democracy. Governor J.B. Pritzker posted on X that justice has been served. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Why settle for ordinary when you can have extraordinary hair? Visit your local SoCal FS Cut and Color salon today and let their team of expert stylists pamper you with affordable luxury. Get a free shampoo with every cut. Book your appointment today at fantasticsands.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The LA Sparks are 2-5 after the first month of the WNBA season. They lost by 10 to the Chicago Sky Thursday night. The Sparks committed 18 turnovers. Next game for the Sparks is Sunday in Phoenix. The Boston Celtics will meet up with the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA Finals. The Mavericks put away Minnesota in 5 games to win the Western Conference title. The Mavericks were the 5th seed in the West. They eliminated 3 of the top 4 seeds in the West to reach the finals: the Clippers, Oklahoma City, and Minnesota. Game 1 of the finals is Thursday night in Boston. ESPNU has agreed to televise the Red Tails Classic college football game between Tuskegee University and Johnson C. Smith. The HBCU matchup is Sunday, September 1st in Montgomery, Alabama. The game is a tribute to the legendary Tuskegee Airmen, the first all-black fighter pilots unit that trained at Tuskegee. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
When you get nachos, tacos, empanadas, spicy queso with jalapenos, Pepto-Bismol's there. Pepto-Bismol provides fast, effective relief from nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, and diarrhea. All the things that can happen unexpectedly on vacation. So before you travel, pack the Pepto. Pepto-Bismol.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Pizza's here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're talking with author and self-proclaimed reparations enforcer, Kamm Howard. We've been drilling down on a few things that are ongoing conversations within the reparations movement. You were talking about this ever thorny question of who's eligible and a Pan-African interpretation, what is widely seen as such versus a lineage based interpretation. And one of the things that I hear a lot is when people say, well, there's people from the Caribbean who moved to this country, wouldn't they receive reparations from their country of origin? I.e., if you're Jamaican, hopefully Jamaica gets reparations, from the British. If you're Haitian, then you should be getting reparations from the French. Why would those folks who came here be eligible for reparations from this country? And well, let's start there.
So I agree 100%. If someone lives in America who may or may not be an American citizen, let's say they are American citizen, and their ancestors was enslaved in the Caribbean, if there's redress in the Caribbean, a country of their origin, for enslavement era crimes, they would have to go back and apply to that country for redress. However, if they live here and they're an American citizen and they were victimized by apartheid era crimes, then where they were victimized at is where their redress would come from. Again, they would not receive redress for enslavement era crimes in this country unless they were enslaved here. And this is a human rights legal argument, and that's why we utilize it, because this immediately wipes away race as a component, as an eligible component. But in order to use this argument, you have to be inclusive of everyone who experienced the same crime or the same impact from a particular crime. And that's why we include these small segments of non-ADOS or non-freedmen into this argument because it immediately moves us away from this race-based claim, immediately.
Denise is asking you to list your top 3 tangible accomplishments as a Pan-African reparationist.
Well, I'm just give one, and that is in 2014, I took upon myself as a national, at that time I was a legislative chair in Cobra, to write into the federal legislation bill the notion of full reparations and special measures as understood by international law. No one in America was talking about full reparations and special measures, but I took it upon myself to write that into the legislation. As you know, California adopted H.R. 40. Now, everybody knows the 5 components of full reparations: cessation, guarantees of non-repetition, restitution, compensation, satisfaction, rehabilitation. But that was unheard of in 2014, and we systematically, Narcan and Cobra, systematically began teaching that. Now, no one in America who's really fighting for reparations is going to begin the conversation about reparations without raising up these 5 components, of which compensation is a component of reparations. The reason we did that is because people were against cash as a whites primarily against cash as a form of reparations. And so instead of us saying cash, cut the check, we said full reparations, and we understood that compensation was a part of that, even though we never said compensation or cash publicly. It was in there, included in there. So that's an extremely important advancement in the movement, that we established the standard of reparations on an international standard.
But just to be clear, California, Dr. Shirley Weber's bill has components of H.R. 40, but it's not like we just took H.R. 40, verbatim and said, oh, we're going to do this. I mean, California's, did their own version of that under the leadership of Shirley Weber. And okay, go ahead.
Actually, California, Dr. Shirley Weber took H.R. 40 verbatim and put a California preamble to it, and I think she changed from a commission to a task force, and then that was included the element around lineage. But if you look at the findings, duties, and purpose of the California bill, it's the exact wording of H.R. 40.
So many questions in this chat. I can't keep up with them, but let's go to Fahima calling us from Washington, D.C. Let's do that. Hi, Fahima.
Greetings, Dominique and Brother Kamm. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Greetings. I'm going to be brief. Yes, I'm going to be brief. And also, Kamm is absolutely correct in terms of H.R. 40 and some of the people that, like Nkechi and others who worked on the Evanston, Illinois reparations also.
Of course, you're talking about attorney Nkechi Taifa.
Yes, also assisted with the California reparations. And in fact, the Japanese gentleman who also, the organization who assisted Conyers in drafting H.R. 40 also was helped in the California reparations legislation. The main thing I wanted to which was to a point that Brother Kamm made in terms of how brothers and sisters from the Caribbean contributed to Black American culture. And I raised this in a space. James Weldon Johnson and J. Rosamond Johnson wrote the Black National Anthem. And guess what? They have ties to the Caribbean and would be considered by these repugnant people as tethered. And there's nothing more Black American than the Black National Anthem, which was in existence before the start.
I mean, we could argue that, but yeah, I see your point. Where are you going? Bring me to reparations.
No, but what I'm saying, I called to speak to how brothers and sisters from the diaspora that have been here in America have contributed to Black American culture. We adopt the Black National Anthem. National is not international, it's the Black National Anthem. And it was written and music was set by James Weldon Johnson and his brother J. Rosamond Johnson, and that is the Black National Anthem, and is Black American. And those brothers have ties to the Caribbean. They have contributed to Black American culture. That's all I wanted to share to Kamm Howard's point, and I'll land here.
All right, thanks, Fahima. Your response, Kamm Howard.
No, she's absolutely right, and there are tons of examples. During the period of enslavement, America was seen as the mainland. You had many enslavers in America who also had plantations in the Caribbean, and you were threatened if you were a bad Negro inward, you would be sold downriver, which meant you would wind up in the Caribbean. So there was a lot of movement back and forth from the Caribbean and America during the period of enslavement and afterwards. And so the boundaries that we're placing are really artificial boundaries, because in many instances they were seen as one entire hemisphere.
Yeah, but it's not like enslaved persons were hopping on a Southwest flight and going down to Jamaica. I mean, I think when you say movement, what movement is then and what it is now are two different things. So let's talk about this in terms of a global context, because I think that's where a lot of where we're not having enough discussion, at least on these Fridays. What is the role of the UN? And when you say reparations is a global movement, I think the interpretation that I most often hear is that Black Americans are supposed to carry this movement for everybody else, that Africans are supposed to be paid and Caribbean folks are supposed to be paid and everybody's supposed to be paid based on, the claim of Black Americans against this country.
No, that's also an incorrect interpretation of what we mean by we saying reparations global movement. It's a global movement that people of African descent and Africans everywhere are building a claim of redress from the European world that harmed us. European countries that engaged in challenization wars on the African continent, they're targeting these countries for repair. European countries that engaged in colonialism on the African continent, they're targeting those governments for repair. European governments that engaged in enslavement in the Caribbean, those Caribbean people are targeting those governments for repair. So the global movement is that Africans everywhere are targeting European governments as well as their own governments if they're, have committed crimes for redress and reparations. That's what we mean by it's a global movement. And because it's a global movement, because what happened to us at the offset of the transatlantic slave trade ordered by the Roman Catholic Church, we have similar methods and means to wage this struggle no matter where we're at. Those of us in America are not fighting for reparations for people on the African continent, but we are sharing best practices. We are moving around some solid foundational principles that we all can use For instance, in 2001, at the World Conference Against Racism, that was a global African victory that the transatlantic slave trade, slavery, colonialism, apartheid were declared crimes against humanity. Every person of African descent anywhere in the world can now say what happened to them was not an immoral act, a sinful act, as America tries to say slavery was America's original sin. No, these were criminal acts of the highest order. So now everyone can say that, and everyone can make a claim, a person who's black on the planet can make a claim to these European governments that you created actual criminal acts that the global community says is mandatory that you redress. It's not a, whether or not there's a compelling interest as they want to put in the United States Supreme Court say there has to be a compelling. It's not whether or not there's a compelling interest. It's an obligation. It's a duty. It's a mandatory obligation to redress crimes against humanity. And so we build our global struggle utilizing some of the same principles because it is a global struggle. It is, it's something that happened to us during a particular period by a group of people who we can identify today as people of European descent in these European nations. But certainly we're not fighting for America to pay African countries or America to pay Caribbean nations. We're fighting America to pay for the continued impact and the debt that it owes us.
Talking with Kamm Howard, want to go a little deeper into the conversation at the UN and the progress that brings. I also want to let folks know how they can participate in your Earn the Vote campaign. That and more when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
When you're young, life is full of choices. Don't let opioids like highly addictive and deadly fentanyl take away your life with just one wrong pill. Addiction is a disease that can affect anyone at any age. But there is a choice to get help for this disease. Find medically proven treatment options, including virtual, at choosemat.org.
Get ready to play. Join the LA84 Foundation Saturday, June 29th for a free Playday block party at 2141 West Adams Boulevard with sports, games, and fun for all ages. With live music, amazing local food, and the spirit of LA's 1984 Summer Olympics celebrating 40 years of impact of the LA84 Foundation. June 29th at LA84's campus in West Adams from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Register at LA84.org. See you at Playday.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, and we're getting back to Kamm Howard, who is with Reparations United. My apologies. I think we need to update your bio. But let's talk about the difference between those two organizations and why it was important for you to make that distinction.
So, NCOBRA is a mass-based organization. It was at one time the premier mass-based organization in the country, and probably the only mass-based organization that was designed to educate and mobilize Blacks around the country. It has, a chapter structure around in various cities, and Reparations United has a more singular focus on unifying the movement around certain principles, not so much unifying the organizations, but having unifying principles as well as unifying projects for repair that we're engaged in. So it's a different structure and strategy.
Circling back, as you mentioned, bringing forth the idea of full reparations. How do people get involved with the Earn the Vote?
So you can go to earntheblackvote.net. We have biweekly teach-ins. Also, we're building a state building strategy. So we need people in California to message the president and to message the Black electorate. And this is a messaging campaign to, again, get a reparations commission by executive order before the election. And so this message has to come from around the country, different spaces, different states, different cities. So definitely would like to have a California presence. But go to earntheblackvote.net, or you can email me at cam@reparationsunited.org.
Okay. The UN, has taken some pretty strong positions as far as supporting reparations. You went to their convening. What is their role? I mean, how important is that, for different countries' movements, right? For the U.S. movement, for CARICOM, for the continent.
Well, this is extremely important. There's been, as you can imagine, a lot of opposition by European nations to engage even in the discussion of reparations. And at this last forum that we had, the Permanent Forum of People of African Descent, the third session, the UN chair stated that there should be and there has to be a not only conversation, but some action in regards to the continued impact from the crimes of enslavement and apartheid and colonialism in these countries targeted toward their African and African descent populations. So this was a major announcement coming out of Durban. We wanted reparations to be center in 2001, but they changed reparations to develop it. But now reparations is center. 2025, 2025, we're reclaiming this as a year of reparations globally for people of African descent and Africans. And we're positioning now the United Nations to establish a second decade for people of African descent, which, again, that focus would be heavily on reparations and repair the continued impact of those crimes committed against us over centuries.
Amazing to me how dismissive the UK is of this. Well, yeah. We're not really doing that. It's basically what they said. Yeah, we're not doing that. I mean, it's crazy to me that the U.S. can actually be so far ahead in terms of at least the conversation compared to France or the UK.
Yeah, because the UK is still, some people say America is a colonial government too, but UK and France still have neo-colonial outposts. They're still in control of economies on the continent. in Britain, especially economies in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I mean, people could say that, like you said, about us too. I mean, Puerto Rico, for example. But I also think it has to do with the legendary and continuing fierce organizing and resistance on the part of Black Americans.
That is true, 100% true. We, I was on a conference in Africa, and I lifted up the centuries of advocacy by Black America in this issue, on this issue of reparations. It's not something that we just got involved in, but we can go back, actually during enslavement, where we petitioned for redress. So we have the longest history of organized advocacy for the repair and redress of these crimes that have been committed against us. So you're absolutely right.
Trying to squeeze stuff in here. Sorry, I think it was Sarah Binney that asked, why do you think Evanston is race-based, and if not, why not, the reparations program there?
Yeah, so I stated earlier that there was a lawsuit filed last week on Evanston claiming it was race-based, and I put out a defense, went out yesterday, Reparations United Defense of Evanston's restorative housing program. It absolutely is not race-based, it's crime-based. The city of Evanston created a zone of criminality, and they on their maps, they drew a red line around that zone for apartheid housing policies. And so the Evanston restorative housing program redresses the crime of apartheid housing. And so not all Blacks in Evanston are eligible. If it was race-based, then all Blacks in Evanston would be eligible. Only those Blacks and their descendants who were living in that zone of criminality created by the city of Evanston are eligible. And so that makes it not race-based. And the claimants who say that they were excluded because they're non-Black, they don't have standing because they didn't, or their ancestors didn't live in that zone of criminality. And so we always have to take it back to the crime that was committed and what period of crime that was committed in. Was it a period of enslavement? Was it a period of apartheid? Is it this post-apartheid period? And the crime, the victimization determines the eligibility, not race. It so happened that, we're all Black, but that's not the primary cause for the claim of redress. The primary cause for the claim of redress is that crimes against humanity was committed against us, and those crimes look like apartheid housing. Those crimes look like labor theft during enslavement. Those crimes look like rape during enslavement. Those crimes look like mass incarceration post-enslavement. So it's always we focus on the crime. And Evanston is not race-based. Their restorative housing program, we argue, is not race-based but crime-based.
Well, I still have a long list of questions, but I don't have a long list of minutes, so you'll have to come back again. Mr. Howard, what do you want to leave us with in this final 60 seconds?
We have the power to force the president right now to enact the Reparations Commission. We have to message that from all around the country. The Democratic Party is totally dependent on a massive outshowing of Black voters for a win, and he can get that if only, I believe, if he established a Reparations Commission. So we have the power. We can use it to leverage a Reparations Commission now. So go to underblackvote.net and join the campaign.
All right, and you got another 30 seconds. You were very succinct. So does Africa get reparations? See, there's the start of a whole other show. We can do that, but if I got 30 seconds, I got to use it.
So Africa should get reparations from the European countries. And they're fighting. Africans are late into the game, but these are nations that have tremendous standing in the global community, and so when they get into the game, it benefits us. Because,
they're getting reparations for colonialism, not enslavement.
Colonialism and the chattelization wars prior to colonialism.
All right. Sounds like part 2. Kamm Howard, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. Have me back.
Absolutely. Opening up the phone lines, Attorney Carrie Harper joins us. We got a lot to talk about. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden says Donald Trump can only be defeated at the ballot box. In a statement shortly after the verdict was handed down, the White House added Trump's guilty verdict in his hush money case shows no one is above the law. The statement adds Trump has always mistakenly believed that he would never face consequences